Chapter 1. Educating Catherine. Or a word of caution to those who are considering the advantages of stealing Catherine. Every time he did this, he felt like Frankenstein. Not the monster, the doctor. Something about bringing an inanimate object to life appealed to human arrogance. To see that divine spark of life flicker on the face of their creation when it first opened its eyes was always enough to trigger a certain shout of triumph. It's alive! It's alive! While Dr. Ian Mercer may have shared Dr. Frankenstein's enthusiasm for creating life, he kept himself grounded, knowing that his best efforts would fall short of perfection. They always did. He conducted this event hundreds, if not thousands of times during his 32-year career in cybernetics. This android was bound to be flawed and imperfect, prone to the same faults and slip-ups as the rest of us. After all, it was based on a flawed and imperfect human model to begin with. All androids were. Catherine Mercer's activation day was May 16, 2207, a Saturday. A little after 4 p.m., she was assembled and activated at Equinox Cybernetics in Malibu, California, East Pacific Territory, Earth. Even after an investment of $120 million Provenance dollars for a synthetic law enforcement agent, Interplanetary Security sent no representatives to witness the occasion. Not the sentimental types, thought project lead Dr. Mercer as he gazed at the android on the swiveled tabletop, currently in a horizontal position. Or perhaps they wanted to avoid making an appearance on a Saturday. To the 20 or so technicians and engineers surrounding her in the artificial intelligence lab, Activation Day was the culmination of 10 months of hard work and commitment, no matter if that day should fall on a weekend. Delays in programming brought the team to the AI lab that day, but no one complained. This one was special. She was a new design and prototype that carried an experimental operating system. For many years, Dr. Mercer had been entertaining theories of multiple neural nets in AI that would be in a constant state of splintering off into parallel matrices, each one in connection and communicating with the other layers. He called it variable stratified neural nets and was given the more palatable name vision. According to his theory, when incorporated into a quantum computer processing unit, the vision system would allow the android to think beyond the boundaries of straight-line, two-dimensional thinking that had plagued them in the past. It may start that way, but as a vision android progresses, learns, and explores its possibilities and options, the AI will break through its narrow-mindedness, achieving cognitive functions resembling humans. It may even reach a level of experiencing real emotions, not mimicking them, but actually feeling emotions. If it ever got that far, and Dr. Mercer was unsure if it would, a vision android may achieve full autonomy, complete freedom from its programs. The atmosphere in the lab was judged too sterile and required an adjustment. "Lower lights to 5%, Mercer said. The lights dimmed with a single ceiling spot shining downward over the new android. Mercer gazed at the synthetic female in the center of the circular lab. To all appearances, she seemed female, but a closer observation would reveal nipple-less approximations of breasts and a similar smoothed-over, featureless crotch at the base of her pelvis. Every time Mercer saw those deletions, he recalled the disagreements in which he and the client had engaged and the requirements he was forced to follow when IPS threatened to walk from the deal. He had to shake his head in amazement that an anatomically correct female android would be considered a deal-breaker. The IPS representatives were firmly entrenched in their position that their android was to be utterly devoted to her duties and not be sidetracked by personal relationships. Mercer relented but kept his logic-based opinion to himself. Why a personal relationship would be a problem for an android but not its human counterparts was baffling. Besides the absence of certain details, lines, seams ran across Catherine's body, her face, sweeping down from her temples over her cheekbones in graceful arcs, from her neck down and around her abdomen, down her arms and legs. At her joints, small open areas revealed the metal and carbon fiber beneath. These delineating contours and gaps could have been easily covered, making identifying Catherine as an android very difficult. That was why she was made in this fashion, so we humans would know we were dealing with an AI, another requirement imposed by IPS. You would not need to see that Catherine had no lady parts to know she was not human. Feel free to interact with Catherine differently than you would your fellow humans. The category in which Catherine was placed was known in common vernacular as a doll, an android deliberately created to be easily identified as artificial, though often the term dolls had come to mean androids in a general sense as well. In contrast to dolls, androids who were made to be indistinguishable from humans were known as Annies, or Anti-Ms, named after Anwen Merrick, the first known android that was mistakenly identified as a human after many face-to-face encounters. Mercer had a strong suspicion that while IPS was venturing into new territory by initiating an android program to recruit AI as agents, they would make sure that the distinction between humans and androids in their organization was clear. Mercer had to draw a deep breath to keep his focus on this particular android in the center of the room. The atmosphere in the lab needed more ambiance. Music, Mercer said to his technicians. A soft classical piece caressed the cool air in the room, the Adagiato from Mahler's Fifth. Lovely, Mercer went on. Okay, power her up and install the SOPs. Time to meet Catherine. Techs tapped at their screens, and schematics flashed above their consoles. Main reactor online, the tech to Mercer's right said. Power levels nominal. Okay to proceed. Catherine's compact cold fusion reactor in her belly hummed silently as power flowed from it, bringing her systems to life. The programmer across the room watched the data on her screens. SOPs downloading. Speech, senses, locomotion, self-learning protocols. All the basics. Done. Mercer paused to allow any irregularities in the pre-flight process to rise to the surface before proceeding. When none appeared, Mercer said, Very good. Begin activation sequence. Affirmative. Booting up. The part when everyone in the room holds their collective breath, Mercer included. A tech tapped his screen, and the table on which the android lay slowly rotated into a vertical position, facing Dr. Mercer. The music was the only sound heard in the lab. No one dared disturb the stillness, the sanctity of the moment. Life was about to be created. Technicians and programmers sat at their stations surrounding the android, monitoring her status on their computers, screens projected upward before them, numbers and schematics shifting and changing values. Mercer glanced down at his computer and saw no further reason for delay. He held his gaze on the sleeping android as his voice rang out. Catherine, wake up. And just like that, at a word, Catherine was born. Her eyes popped open, and the first image that fell upon her ocular sensors was Dr. Mercer standing before her at his console. She was naked, just as the rest of us on the day we were born. Those present in the room agreed that she had a good figure. She still does. Her slender waist contrasted nicely with her hips, not too narrow, not too wide. She stood at a precise 5 feet 9 inches. Her lean figure would be described as athletic, with a well-defined muscular structure sheathed in tight, pale skin, what one may call an ideal body, depending on one's definition of ideal. Catherine focused on Dr. Mercer before her. He had a slight smile on his face, pleased. Dr. Mercer, a tall man of 56, his face only slightly creased, his brown hair full and grown long and unkempt. His green eyes bore witness to his wisdom and years of work and dedication. He gazed back at her with what could only be described as fatherly pride and admiration. Mercer studied her for a long moment before speaking again, scrutinizing every detail. An android in its construction phase seemed to change in appearance after its activation, and Catherine was no different. He began his critique with her face and recalled the selection process during her design phase. After dozens of artist renditions, a face was chosen. The source material of the face stated its origins were Eastern Europe, Ukraine, but it could have been anywhere in Europe. IPS approved, but added a notation to avoid making her look too friendly, as she was to project the appearance of firm authority. Too friendly? Just what did too friendly look like? Mercer agreed to their request, then promptly dismissed it, as he had no intention of building an android that would remind him of his fourth-grade school teacher. Mercer gazed at her hair and eyes. Catherine's hair was the same material as her muscles and skin, but took a different form and dynamic. She could change the length and color at her whim and change it in seconds. At the time of her activation, a deep mahogany brown was chosen. Her large eyes were a matching brown, but upon closer inspection, one would see streaks of blue and green in her irises amid the brown. Her eyes were unusually captivating and hypnotic, with high arching eyebrows. Her vision encompassed the visual spectrum, including the infrared and ultraviolet ranges invisible to our eyes. She would have impeccable night vision. Catherine could change the color of her hair, but not her eyes. Tear ducts had been installed for lubrication, but as it was doubtful that Catherine would experience real emotions, it was unlikely that she would ever cry. Mercer's eyes flew over the rest of Catherine's body, deeming her torso, extremities, and proportions satisfactory, but returned to her face, her eyes in particular. In his opinion, the eyes were always an android's most important feature. And those eyes gazed back at him. "Good afternoon, my dear," he said. "State your name." Catherine knew her name. That and many other bits of basic data had just been downloaded into her memory moments before her activation. Her SOPs, standard operating procedures. And Mercer knew Catherine's name. He was the one who named her at the very onset of the project. But he had to test her to see if the SOPs were functioning properly, and if she could understand a simple sentence and make a reply. "My name is Catherine Ann Mercer." Her voice was deep and resonant, not masculine, unmistakably feminine, an alto with rich, warm tones, a sound that had been modeled after the voices of actresses Lauren Bacall and Cate Blanchett from long ago. Dr. Mercer had always resisted the temptation to bestow his name onto any of his androids, but he felt that this one was special, the first of its kind, running with the experimental Vision operating system. Perhaps his optimism drove him to make that vaguely narcissistic decision to give this one his name. He promised himself and others on the project that this one, only this one android, would carry his name. Catherine was given a number in addition to her name. The first letter of her name, C, and the number of letters in her name, 9, became her serial number, C9, a number she would carry to this day. He was pleased with her so far, right from the start. But his satisfaction was tempered with the knowledge that he would have to give her up in 3 weeks. That certainty was in the contract. She was going to IPS, Interplanetary Security. They owned her. Equinox and Mercer were paid very well for building Catherine, and whether or not he wanted to keep her did not matter. Equinox was not in the business of satisfying Mercer's personal wants. IPS had made a bold move in android evolution and launched a prototype program to place AIs in positions of authority, agents. The world government, the Provenance, did not miss IPS's forward-thinking initiative. After the War of the Dolls in the mid to late 21st century, the Provenance was uneasy with allowing AIs to move beyond anything more than a sophisticated housemaid. In recent years, however, androids had been making progress in analytical fields that had given them limited powers of authority, such as education and medicine. So far, to everyone's cautious relief, they were climbing back up the ladder without setting off alarms of another takeover. The latest generation of ethics programs had proven effective in impressing upon an android that doing its best work did not require cleansing the planet of inferior humans. An android did very well as a doctor, a teacher, or a scientist, but beyond those exceptions, not many people trusted them beyond performing basic service duties. A custodian, receptionist, A dog walker? Yes. A law enforcement officer? Faced with the specter of possibly inviting another android rebellion, many questioned the wisdom of putting a gun in the hand of a machine and sending it off to perform police and detective work. When Catherine's eyes flew open at the sound of Dr. Mercer's voice, an audible gasp filled the room. The techs tilted their heads together in hushed whispers. Look at her eyes. Catherine stared back at them, her face expressionless. Do you know where you are? Dr. Mercer asked. I am in the Artificial Intelligence Lab at Equinox Cybernetics. The techs tapped away at their computers, observing and recording every step in her progress, every change, no matter how inconsequential it may have appeared. Confirm self-awareness. Mercer beckoned her to approach. Catherine stepped away from the table from which she had been assembled and activated. She stopped a few feet before Mercer. Equilibrium good. Mercer smiled. My name is Dr. Ian Mercer. On behalf of my team and myself, we'd like to welcome you to the world and wish you a very happy birthday. The technicians and engineers involved with Catherine's creation from the beginning came forward and surrounded her. They congratulated her with smiles and hugs, and many kissed her on the cheek. Catherine stared at them and did not return their smiles or their kisses. Catherine, Mercer said when he saw his chance. Come with me. Let's go over here. Mercer led Catherine to one side of the room. The techs picked up handhelds linked remotely to the mainframe computers, followed Mercer and Catherine, and continued to tap notes. C9 follows verbal instructions. Mercer brought Catherine to a spot where a young woman stood waiting for her. She was to give Catherine her first test, to dress herself. A table stood beside Catherine. 2 items of light blue clothing lay on the table, folded neatly, one next to the other. Catherine, Mercer said, pointing at the clothes on the table. These are your clothes. Please put them on. Catherine stared at the clothes, not knowing what to do with them. A put clothes on program had been deliberately withheld from her SOPs on startup. The true test here was not so much to see if Catherine could dress herself as to test her ability to self-learn, to observe an action and replicate it. Catherine looked at the folded clothes for a moment, then looked at Dr. Mercer for help. Pick up the pants first, Mercer said. The one on the left. Catherine took the pants. They unfolded in her hand, legs dropping. Catherine held them, peering at them, unsure what to do next. The young woman, Lillian, wore black athletic shorts and a matching sports bra. She held up a pair of pants identical to the one in Catherine's hands. Catherine, hi, I'm Lillian. Watch me. Lillian opened the pants at the waistband and showed it to Catherine. The tag is in the back. This is the front. Put one leg in at a time and pull it up to your waist, like this. Lillian stepped into the pants. You can start with your left or right leg first. Doesn't matter. I'll use my left. Catherine watched as Lillian pulled her pants up to her waist. Now you do it, said Lillian. Catherine looked at the pants in her hand. It took her a few moments, but she found the tag. She held them open and stepped into them, left leg first. She pulled them up to her waist, then looked at Lillian. Pants test going well. Now for the top, Lillian said. Pick it up. Catherine took it, a loose-fitting top with a V-neck collar. She looked at it, puzzled. Lillian held up a matching top. The tag is in the back. The V in the collar is the front. Lillian pulled the top over her head, pushed her arms through the sleeves, and pulled it down to fit. Catherine watched. Now you. Catherine pulled on her top in one flawless motion. C9 self-learns. Pants test success. Lillian smiled. Good, you got it. An instructor came forward. Catherine, my name is Elizabeth. We are now going to go through some simple movements to see how well your motor skills are performing. I want you to copy what I do. Ready? Yes, Catherine said. Elizabeth led Catherine in a series of basic moves. Raise one arm, then both. Stand on one leg, then the other. Shift her weight from one leg to the other. Twist, bend over, lean back, lean to the left and right. Her eyes were tested. Look up, down, to the right, left. Tracking was good. "You did very well, Catherine," Elizabeth said. "Thank you." Mercer laid a polite hand on Catherine's shoulder, getting her attention. "Catherine, follow me. We should talk." Mercer led Catherine from the AI lab to an adjoining break room with several technicians following with their handhelds. He gestured to one of the soft chairs in the room. "Have a seat." Catherine initiated her sitting program and sat in the chair nearest to her. She did not sit back in the chair in a relaxed position. She sat erect as if a wooden board had been thrust down the back of her shirt. Her brown eyes remained fixed on Mercer as he lowered himself into the chair beside her. "You might be wondering what is going on," Mercer began. "No." Catherine's voice was flat and, like her face, devoid of feeling. "Sometimes we activate an android, and it can be a little confused at the beginning. Are you feeling well, Catherine?" "I am." "Do you have any questions?" "No." "Are you aware of what is happening?" "It is my birthday." Mercer smiled. "Conversation abilities, adequate, needs improvement." "Even though you have no questions," Mercer said, "allow me to explain. You are an android, an artificial intelligence. Not more than 15 minutes ago, you were a collection of inanimate parts assembled to resemble a human being. I and the others you see here are human. We are flesh and blood, not machines. The inanimate parts that comprise your body have been brought to life today, and now you live. You live just as other humans live, though differently. Do you understand what I am saying so far?" "Yes." Catherine's eyes remained locked on Mercer. Not once did she look away, even for an instant, to scan the background, to question the presence of the techs who seemed so absorbed with their handheld devices. "Now, having said this, do you have any questions?" This time, Catherine did not answer straight away. She stared at Mercer for a long moment. "Yes," Catherine said. The techs went on alert, handhelds at the ready. "Which is... what is my purpose?" That sent the tech's fingers into a flurry of taps. "Milestone. C9 questions her purpose." Mercer raised his brows in surprise. "Ah, your purpose. Usually, a few days go by after activation before an android asks that question. Your immediate concern at this time is to learn. We are here to help you. For the next 3 weeks, focus on your education. Beyond that time, we will talk more, but your purpose is very specific, and there is a reason why you are here." "Am I to be human?" Catherine asked. Again, Mercer was caught off guard. He smiled to hide his surprise and searched for the right words. "If that is what you wish. We created you with one purpose in mind, for you to have limitless potential, that you can achieve whatever you set your mind to. It will not be easy or quick, but if you want to be human, be human." Catherine stared at Mercer, but did not reply, as if what he had said meant nothing to her. Mercer was uncertain. Did what he told her move her or not? If his theories on variable stratified neural nets, which Catherine possessed, were correct, it was not off to an impressive start. Where were the emotions? Catherine had all the personality of a 2x4, much like the hypothetical one stuffed down the back of her shirt. He had been expecting more from this one-on-one than the blank stare sitting beside him. Mercer shook his head as reason took over. Be patient. After all, she's only been alive 15 minutes. "Catherine, I'd like to give you a tour of Equinox," he said, rising from his chair. "Would you like that?" "Yes." Catherine also rose to her feet, but this time she did so on her own without a gesture from Mercer, a hand held out, beckoning her to follow. Situated on one of the many bluffs above the Pacific Ocean along the Malibu coast, Equinox Cybernetics was considered a world leader in artificial intelligence and android manufacture. Since its founding in 2121, it had gained the reputation of producing only the finest, most advanced androids and robotics available in the world. It prided itself in its preference for handcrafting each android individually, each embedded with a stringent code of ethics protocols to alleviate any fears of a second AI rebellion. That point alone made Equinox stand out from the other AI makers, whose production methods relied on the assembly line, mass-producing androids at high rates of speed, cranking out the bots by the hundreds daily. An individual or business considering an investment in one or more androids would have to choose. Either pay Equinox's high price tag for exceptional quality, service, and reliability, or settle for less and, well, save money and get mediocre or average at best. You might get one identical to your neighbors and with the same name. Not only did Equinox build their androids, but they also took the time and effort to educate and train them. This made an Equinox android a cut above the rest, an AI worthy of that high-level receptionist position, a nurse or a doctor. Each was unique and individual, as one would expect humans to be. The ethics programs installed in Equinox androids were considered the best in the industry, setting a high standard for the world and galaxy. The morals by which an Equinox android was guided were clear. The human race, flawed though it was, is not to be conquered or eradicated, but to be seen as peaceful co-inhabitors of planet Earth and surrounding star systems. When IPS decided to introduce androids as agents, there was no debate on where to go for their source. And then there were the sex bot manufacturers. The odd thing about them was that, despite their dominance in the android marketplace, they kept the lowest profile. Unless you were looking for them specifically, they were nowhere to be seen. Their androids were mass-produced with slight variation, as they were built with a single purpose in mind. However, if your budget allows it and you could spend a little more, you might get one that will cook and clean for you and keep you satisfied in bed every night. That was about as advanced as they got. Imagination and originality were not considered values in the sex bot industry. They did a better job at remaining clandestine under everyone's noses. Catherine followed Mercer past a long table on the production floor, an expansive room, the largest in Equinox. Under overhead lights, various android parts laid in organized groupings, each according to the project for which it was slated. Catherine gazed at the parts. Arms, legs, hands, torsos, heads. At certain areas on the table, torsos were laid open as work was performed on internal systems. The techs followed Mercer and Catherine, watching, their handhelds constantly in use. Mercer explained the processes to Catherine as they strolled past the body parts, stopping occasionally for a closer look. He informed her that at various points in time during her production, she was also here, with her parts strewn all over the room. Catherine did not ask any questions, just nodded from time to time. From the production floor, Mercer, Catherine, and the techs entered a dark and quiet room. This was the digital room, where scores of computer techs sat at their stations, unraveling issues dealing with android programming, protocols, and systems. They passed through here rather quickly, as it was all quite uninteresting and tedious except to those who were involved in that work and thrived in it. The programmers gave Catherine and the others a mere glance in their direction, but stayed focused on their work, as they considered the visitors equally uninteresting and tedious. They left programming, entered the halls of Equinox, and passed by several offices and conference rooms. Occasionally, they walked by other androids, who stopped to look at Catherine and then resumed their duties, usually cleaning or pushing a cart. The android receptionists rose to greet Catherine personally when she walked past, and they did so with a smile. Catherine would nod a greeting in return without breaking stride, sometimes glancing back. The building that accommodated Equinox Cybernetics was a house of light. Entire walls of glass facing north allowed light to enter and scatter in all directions, bathing the interior in soft illumination. Rooftop skylights added more light to the main concourse, open from the bottom floor up. They passed by a middle-aged man in a gray suit on the concourse, though he seemed to take interest in Mercer, Catherine, and the techs, Mercer made no effort to return the gray man's attention. No smile, no nod of his head. To Mercer, the man in gray was a non-entity, just another piece of furniture or wall fixture to which no one paid any attention. Catherine and her companions entered the marine lab, a large space with a pool of water in the center, about half an Olympic-sized pool, and twice as deep at one end. Here, the marine bots were tested and observed in action. Mercer pointed out a window to one side on the next level above the pool. His office. Catherine nodded. There were many other rooms at Equinox, classrooms much like what one would expect at a typical school, exercise and fitness rooms, a commissary for the employees, and a rooftop swimming pool. Catherine maintained her blank, expressionless visage through it all. However, her face did register some change in thought, a slight bit, at the sight of a rooftop pool, which she saw through the other side of a glass wall. She stopped and gazed at it for a time, seemed about to say something, then moved on. The time was right to take her outside. They turned a corner, passed through a pair of double doors, which opened for them, and stepped out onto the rooftop promenade. The rooftop pool was off to their right, with a cafe beside it. As if a switch had been thrown, Catherine's head turned and swiveled as she gaped at the scene before her. She moved away from the others, her jaw dropping in amazement. The text tapped away. Milestone. C9 responds to exterior. Overwhelmed. Catherine's eyes swept back and forth across the sky. Clouds were catching the light of a setting sun, which was nearing the horizon of the Pacific Ocean. A chilly spring breeze from the north caught her attention, and Catherine turned to it, stretching out her neck and face to receive as much of it as possible. Pleased, Mercer followed her. "Catherine, what do you feel?" he asked. But Catherine moved away from him, attracted to the transparent safety wall that lined the rooftop's edge. She stopped at the waist-high wall and gazed out over the Pacific. Mercer came to her side. "Any thoughts, Catherine?" Catherine's eyes were taking in everything before her. The sky, ocean, beach, the clouds, wind, and sunset. It was all so much at once. "Space," she said at last. "Big, big space." She reached out with her arm, hand grasping at the space. Mercer understood Catherine's reaction to the view. Until now, her conception and definition of space had been the interior of Equinox. She had seen nothing bigger than the production floor where android parts were assembled. Imagine having no knowledge, no experience of the outdoors, and then you were thrust into all this space. Enormous space. But what made Catherine's case unique from other androids, Mercer noted, was that while her AI counterparts in this same situation had stated merely that the view was remarkable, to Catherine, the view actually had made an impression on her. Mercer smiled. "What you see here is only a fragment of the world, Catherine. It is a big space. Speaking of space, let's stay here a while. There's more I want to show you." Catherine pointed her finger at the horizon. "Dr. Mercer, the light is moving!" Her voice was full of surprise and amazement. It took a moment before Mercer caught on. The sun was sinking into the horizon, its bottom portion already clipped off, and Catherine had noticed. "It's sunset," Mercer said. "You'll learn about it when you get your downloads tonight. For now, enjoy the view." For the next hour, Catherine and Dr. Mercer stood at the railing and watched the sun's fading light as the Earth continued its perpetual rotation on its axis, west to east. Mercer sent for his jacket as the air had turned decidedly brisk. Catherine gave no mind to the temperature, as her tolerance for cold and heat had been set at high levels. She could feel the chill, it just did not bother her. Mercer pointed out the stars as they appeared, explaining that they were very similar to the sun that had just set, only much farther away. Catherine's sense of the size and scale of space was constantly being redefined. "How many stars, Dr. Mercer?" "Billions. And beyond our galaxy, there are billions of other galaxies, each one containing billions and billions of stars." What keeps them up there? Why don't they fall down? Mercer smiled. They float on a current of love. They left the rooftop and returned to the hallways. Mercer dismissed the techs and instructed them to be ready to work first thing Monday morning. He wanted this time with Catherine to himself when he gave her the downloads. Mercer brought Catherine to his office and closed the door behind them. A small, short cylinder lay on his desk. He pushed it toward Catherine. You have been given the ability to access any computer anywhere by merely coming within its proximity, Mercer said. Touch this computer with your fingertips like this. He rested his fingertips on the computer, the small cylinder on his desk. Catherine watched. Now you try, Mercer said, withdrawing his hand. Catherine followed Mercer's example, placing her fingertips on the computer. Connect. Use your mind, your thoughts. Catherine nodded. A moment passed and her eyes widened. Oh, yes, I am connected. Execute access command, general knowledge. Access, general knowledge. A projected screen leaped up from the computer and hovered just above it. Images flew by as mountains of data flowed from the computer and into Catherine. Everything from history, science, physics, quantum mechanics, math, algebra, calculus, trigonometry, languages, French, German, Italian, Spanish, Russian. All the Asian languages. Mandarin, Cantonese, Japanese, Korean, Vietnamese, and Thai. All languages spoken around the world. Every bit of knowledge in the world and beyond flowed into Catherine in a matter of seconds. She was no longer ignorant of things like the setting sun or stars in the sky. But Mercer was not finished. Access Code of Conduct and Ethics Protocols. Access. The moral codes of the world and many others streamed into her. Now she will know the difference between taking a tip and taking a bribe. The proper human-AI relationship also defined itself in Catherine. Humans were not to be considered a hindrance or obstacle to AI development, period. Catherine nodded to Mercer. The next download is a gift from me, Mercer said. Access art, music, dance, theater, cinema, and literature. Access. The computer's screen flashed images of paintings, sculptures, architecture, figures in dance, and other performing arts. Catherine's eyes widened. Beautiful, she said, awestruck. For the first time, Catherine smiled. Not a big one, but an unmistakable smile. Thank you, Doctor. Now, this next download pertains to your next phase in life, said Mercer, his voice turning a shade somber. Access data for law and order, use of force and self-preservation. Access and download. Access. The screen flashed pages of text and images of figures performing various styles of martial arts. After a few moments, the images stopped and faded from view. The smile that had played on Catherine's lips also faded. She removed her hand from the computer. Download complete, she said, her voice subdued. She stepped back from the computer and looked at Mercer as if he had just slapped her. Mercer saw the concern in her eyes, the knot in her brow. Do you have a question, Catherine? Doctor, you have given me a deception program. You have given me the ability to lie. That's right. He knew this was going to be a problem. I am uncomfortable with this program. You should be. But events may arise that require you to be untruthful. You might save a life, maybe your own. Do you understand? Perhaps. Unknown to Catherine then, Mercer had laid a foundation in her that he had hoped would give her leverage with a particular evil that she was bound to confront. If he could not spare her from that evil, he could at least give her a way to circumvent and overcome it. He had harbored that thought secretly throughout Catherine's development and had written the deception program himself. The Provenance be damned. They're not getting Catherine. She will outsmart them. Mercer was walking a delicate tightrope. Deception programs were illegal for an android to possess. The Provenance saw a thin line between an android's ability to lie and its potential to become aggressive. Besides that, even if an android's ethics programs could keep its hostility in check, a deception program had the power to bring trouble and unhappiness. But at the same time, Mercer had to make her understand that if properly handled, it could be to her benefit. He reasoned that a deception program could be a very useful tool for an IPS android agent. Would not their human counterparts resort to trickery from time to time to catch a suspect? And should not an android agent be equally equipped and able to perform at the same level? But you must use it wisely and with great discretion, Mercer said, or it will conflict with your ethics program. How can I use it without conflicting with my ethics program? It depends on the situation and to whom you are speaking. Trust your judgment, Catherine. But it is illegal for me to have it. True, but there must be exceptions. You will not be able to do your job without the program. Do you understand? Catherine nodded, still unsure. She would continue to object vocally, but chose to remain silent. As she had been in existence only a few hours, she trusted Mercer's judgment above her own. Having completed her downloads, Catherine now possessed knowledge greater than that of a graduate at the master's level, or even a doctorate. In the time span of a few minutes, she was an expert linguist, fluent in over 30 Earth languages, and several of the more dominant alien tongues spoken in the galaxy. She knew all there was to know in chemistry, mathematics, physics, history, and almost anything else one could understand. But head knowledge was one thing. Putting that knowledge into practice was another. Early Monday morning, Mercer explained, Catherine was to attend her first class. A curriculum would be beamed to her shortly, and she was expected to follow it faithfully. Catherine agreed. Mercer led her to the door. There's one room in the building we didn't show you during the tour, and I want you to see it now. What room is that? Yours. 20 apartments were provided to newly built androids during their education and orientation phases at Equinox. Mercer gave Catherine the best one. As they walked into the darkened room, the lights faded up to a soothing, cool glow with a warm spot in the corner for reading. The ample space drew Catherine in, who paced to the center of the living room and turned in a circle, taking it in. This is my room? She asked. Yes, all yours for as long as you are here, Mercer said. To one side, Catherine found a kitchenette well stocked with plenty of drinking water. As her synthetic blood and various parts of her body were water-based, Catherine ran the risk of dehydration if deprived of water, just as we would. She could drink, but required less quantities than a human. Alcohol would not affect her. There was a refrigerator, but it was empty. There was no need. The apartment was well furnished with chairs, a table, and a sofa thoughtfully placed. There was a bedroom to the right. Inside, she found a queen-sized bed neatly made up with sheets and a blanket. But like the refrigerator, there was no need. Catherine would not be sleeping. Mercer explained that on occasion, they provided housing for human guests on the premises, hence the presence of a bed and a bathroom connected to the bedroom. But she might be using that too. As many of Catherine's body functions were water-based, the fluids in her body would accumulate impurities over time, mildew and bacteria, which necessitated expulsion. A small orifice located between her legs, as one would expect to find, served that purpose. It was useless for sex. She was not made for it. She urinated, but it was not urine, and the toilet breaks occurred at longer intervals than it would be for us, usually several days from one to the next. Some of the most unexpected words you would hear Catherine say is, "I gotta pee." Another surprise for Catherine was a fully stocked closet. Here, she found a wide variety of clothes, all in her size and suitable for all the activities in which she was expected to participate. Mercer brought Catherine back to the living room. He had one more surprise for her. Tall, floor-to-ceiling windows covered by drapes made up the wall on the far side of her room. "Drapes open," Mercer said to the room's environment control. Catherine watched spellbound as the drapes drew aside, revealing the Pacific Ocean under a starry night sky spread out before her. She gasped at the sight. Mercer pushed the balcony door and stepped out. "You should see it from here." Catherine followed Mercer out and stopped at the railing. They were on the 5th floor, an excellent vantage point to soak in the view. Pinpoints of lights on the sea marked the positions of boats and ships, while lights from the city cast a glow from the east and south. "So beautiful," Catherine said. Mercer had a thought. "Catherine, what ocean is that?" "The Pacific." "What can you tell me about it?" "The Pacific Ocean is the largest ocean on Earth, with a surface area of nearly 64 million square miles. It has the deepest point on Earth in the Mariana Trench at 35,853 feet deep. It covers 46% of the Earth's water surface and—" "Thank you, Catherine, that will do," Mercer said with a smile. "It's a big ocean. There are bigger ones on Massa." "Massa?" "It's a planet 1,578 light-years from Earth. Discovered in 2128 Massa," Mercer chuckled. "Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, that is quite enough." "I thought you wanted to know." "Actually, no. Just testing your knowledge of the downloads." "I know very much now, thank you." Mercer nodded. The downloads were doing their job. "Then perhaps this would be a good time to say goodnight," he said, turning to go. "You might want to use this time to review the material you received today." "Yes, I will." "Tomorrow is Sunday, and the shop will be closed. If you don't mind, I'd like to spend that time with you and go over some things." "I would like that, yes." Mercer turned to go once more. "Good night, Catherine." "Doctor, wait." Mercer turned back. "Yes?" "There is something I need to tell you. It is of some importance." "Oh?" Mercer perked up, not sure what to expect. "What's that?" "The stars do not float on a current of love. They are a body of 400 billion stars that form the Milky Way galaxy and circle a supermassive black hole at the center." Mercer smiled. He thought that this could be a teachable moment to enlighten her on the subtleties and vagaries of symbolic imagery in the English language. "You are right," he said after a moment of thought. "I stand corrected." Though she had missed the point of the poetic linguistics he had used, Mercer was more than happy with Catherine. Her early stiffness and machine-like interactions had given way to a childlike wonder, awed by a world, a galaxy, and a universe beyond her balcony that promised undiscovered wealth and opportunities. Or perhaps her vision system had finally settled into a routine for dealing with the incoming stimuli from her senses. Either way, it did not matter to Mercer as he paced down the hall away from Catherine's apartment with a light spring in his step. Activating Catherine on a Saturday brought Mercer an unexpected advantage: free time with his latest creation, an entire day in which he had her all to himself. That he admitted to himself was the truth. A brand new android running with an experimental operating system intrigued him, and he had no delusions about wanting to spend this time with her. After all, she will not be around much longer. 3 weeks, and she would be gone. Time Mercer was certain to fly by. He felt somewhat justified in taking this Sunday away from home. A day Equinox would be closed, allowing a distraction-free environment for face-to-face interaction. Besides that, he owed her an explanation. He appeared at Catherine's apartment door shortly after dawn. Mercer instructed Catherine to wear a white t-shirt and shorts. She was going to need them. He then led her out of the building and down a flight of steps that marked the face of the bluff to the beach below. Catherine grew excited as she neared the surf. She stopped and stared. "Dr. Mercer, I want to go in the water, but—" Catherine searched her nets and memories and noticed something missing. "You don't know how to swim," Mercer said. "Yes, why?" "You don't have a swimming program, yet. The program exists but was being revised and improved when you were activated yesterday. Instead of delaying your activation because of a non-essential program, we decided to move forward anyway and give it to you later." "Oh, I see." "But walk in it. You can wade, that's easy enough." Mercer and Catherine walked along the beach as the morning sun rose in the east. Catherine smiled at the sensation of the cold water sweeping over her bare feet and ankles, pushing against her as it surged up the sandy slope, then pulling back. "Catherine, there is something I need to tell you," Mercer said. "Tell me anything." "You need to know what you were made for, why you are here." "My purpose." "Yes. You are aware of the organization IPS?" Interplanetary Security. Established in 2091, IPS was the main law enforcement branch of the Forum of AI Control, which later transitioned to the Provenance in 2140. Correct. Our contract is with IPS. They have started a new program to incorporate androids as law enforcement agents. You are the first in the program. Catherine stopped in her tracks as a new wave rushed over her feet. "I'm going to be a police officer? To stop crime?" "Well, to bring criminals to justice. You'll have to catch them first." Catherine processed that, picturing the image in her mind. "I'm going to be an IPS agent." A smile appeared on her face, a genuine smile. "Catch criminals. I'm going to make the galaxy a better place to live." "So you approve?" Yes, I do. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you so much." Catherine skipped and twirled through the surf, splashing and kicking the water. Mercer stopped and watched her, hands in his pockets, smiling, pleased to see the contrast in Catherine's behavior from one day to the next. One day. He was also very pleased and relieved that Catherine had accepted her destiny with apparent enthusiasm. But he wondered, as he watched her kicking up seawater, his smile fading, how long her enthusiasm would last.